maybe this year is the year Riot Fest actually does suck. Hey everyone, it's Michael. All jokes aside, the Riot Fest 2024 lineup just got released, and we have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right in. So I have a little bit of history with Riot Fest, as I would imagine many people who like, punk rock and alternative music that live somewhere around Chicago do. I remember, I've been able to attend every different version of Riot Fest. I remember when it was at different venues in the city, then it was in Humboldt Park, then it was at Douglas Park, and now we have Riotland. And sometimes I do think that Riot Fest's place in, punk rock history or the punk rock scene kind of does get a little bit overlooked, because when Warped Tour went away, Riot Fest was like the one festival a year, at least here in North America, where you could guarantee that you're gonna get a bunch of punk rock bands, emo, pop punk, alternative rock in general, you know what I mean, all in one place for one weekend. So they really filled that gap when Warped Tour went away, and obviously now you have a bunch of different fests, like, the biggest one obviously being When We Were Young. But so Riot Fest, I feel like, does get, a little bit overshadowed by some of the other stuff in the scene. But, I think Riot Fest definitely has importance to the punk rock scene. So this year they had a disagreement, or they've had disagreements with the Chicago Park District for a number of years, but it looks like this year was, when everything came to a head. So now we have Riotland, which is going to be in a suburb of Chicago in Bridgeview, Illinois, which, depending on where you are in the city is, let's call it 40-ish minutes, 45 minutes away from, like, Chicago proper. And I don't want to, everyone in Chicago, in and around Chicago, always, hates on the suburbs. And, has anybody, looked at rent and what prices are now? Like, let's calm down with that. So, and it looks like this was definitely like a last-minute move here, from everything that I saw from the release from Riot Fest. Then the Chicago Park District kind of released something. So, two sides of the story. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle there, but I have the Riotland kind of map and everything kind of pulled up here. So, as someone who lives in Chicago, I can guarantee you that the city ain't that close. But, we have parking now, which is going to be fun. But there's a bunch of different stuff here besides the actual stages. And I think that's going to be a big part. Going to all these festivals with the fees, the taxes, you're driving, you're paying for parking, all of this stuff. It feels like a lot of the big music kind of companies, Ticketmaster, Live Nation, all that kind of stuff, are all still trying to make back the money that everybody lost during, 2020 and all that kind of stuff. So I do enjoy that Riot Fest, the carnival kind of atmosphere has always been a part of Riot Fest, and it seems like they're really just kind of expanding that for Riotland. All right, let's get to the lineup proper here. So we have the headliners for the 3 days: Fall Out Boy, Beck, Slayer. Fall Out Boy, I'm really just waiting for Fall Out Boy if they could play Take This to Your Grave in full. Personally, for me, it seems like they're one of the only bands that's not playing an album in full as far as I know yet with When We Were Young. That, might get announced in the future, but as of right now, I don't see that happening, or it has been announced. Offspring, Bright Eyes Sublime, Rob Zombie, Marley Brothers. So the top here, I mean, it seems okay. Nothing like immediately is jumping out at me. I don't think the lineup has that one band where we're all just like, whoa, like this is some crazy reunion, or some band that we haven't seen, or a band doing, an album that they haven't done in a long time, or that they, haven't done ever. Like if Fall Out Boy was doing Take This to Your Grave in full, I think that would have been like the big, oh my god moment in the lineup. Moving down here, we have Sum 41. Sum 41 is having their final year, or I don't know if like the last show is going to be in 2024. They might be playing some shows in 2025, but if you haven't been aware, Sum 41 released a final album. If you're not going to be traveling anymore to see Sum 41, and you want to see Sum 41, if you live around Illinois, this might be the last time you get a chance to see them in New Found Glory. I wonder if this is going to be Catalyst, because New Found Glory is touring on that. So I imagine that this is going to be a full album playthrough here. Tic Mac Sunday, Something Corporate, Hot Mulligan. So the biggest band, probably one of the bigger young-ish bands in the scene. I know Hot Mulligan have been around forever, but, always good to see more an injection of kind of youth here. You know, someone's going to have to headline Riot Fest in, 10 years and 15 years here. It can't always be these legacy acts. Beach Muddy Basement, that's cool to see them back in the States here. Atlas Dunes, State Champs, The Hives. 3 days of NoFX is, they're in the same boat as Sum 41. NoFX is kind of doing their last big tour here, but 3 days, hey, excuse me, if you love NoFX, you got 3 days of NoFX. If you don't like NoFX, well, you'll probably at least, hear NoFX off in the distance for the entire festival. Descendants, Pennywise, Lawrence Arms. This one is going to be pretty cool. Laura Jean Grace playing with Catbite, doing an Operation Ivy set. Operation Ivy has been one of the rumors forever with Riot Fest that at some point, if any festival is going to get Operation Ivy to reunite and play one more time, it's going to be Riot Fest. Sadly, it hasn't happened this year, but, hey, we got one of the more iconic voices in punk rock playing with a great young band, Catbite. Check them out if you haven't. And they're playing an Operation Ivy set. Hopefully, I'd love to hear some, Against Me songs and some Catbite songs thrown in there, but, who knows. But that's pretty cool here. Nothing really crazy. I'm up here. Sincere Engineer. Hopefully, we get another Corn Dog Mosh Pit. Slaughter Beach Dog is here. Gel. Spiritual Cramp. Winona Fighter, that's pretty cool to see them on the lineup here. Action Adventure. Okay, yeah, so nothing nothing crazy, earth-shattering really jumps out at me. Will Fall Out Boy play an album in full? I doubt it at this point. If they're not doing it at When We Were Young, I don't see why they would do it at Riot Fest. I mean, maybe like the Chicago connection, so they do it for that. That would be pretty awesome to see, but yeah, I think it's a solid lineup. Nothing, crazy is jumping out at me. What's on my mind now is what Riot Fest is going to do with after shows, because when you're in the city proper, obviously it's a shorter distance to get to all the venues after Riot Fest ends. But now we're talking, Riot Fest ends at, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. And the after shows, you're 40 minutes without traffic or with minimum traffic to get back to the city for those after shows. So I think that's going to be a real tricky thing. Can Riot Fest are there even more, venues around Bridgeview where you don't have to go in the city to catch an after show? But if you're traveling in, because I know a lot of people travel to Chicago just for Riot Fest. So, do you want to stay in Bridgeview the entire, 3 or you're probably staying for more days, 4 or 5 days? I'd imagine you'd want to spend September in Chicago, downtown, more in the neighborhoods. Again, nothing against Bridgeview. I got nothing against the suburbs. You live where you live. You afford what you can afford. It's crazy times now, so I'm not one of those people, that, from Chicago that hates the suburbs. We all got to do what we got to do. So I'm just thinking about, like, the logistics of being in Bridgeview and then trying to get back into the city. Like, my guess right now is, unless there's something I'm missing, like, you have to leave before, like, the final headliner starts, right, to get back. What if you do want to see Fall Out Boy, you want to see their whole set, and you do want to get to whatever the after show happens to be? Like, it's going to be, I think that the transportation part is going to be tough. I don't think there's any good, CTA stops around there. You're either going to have to Uber to one or drive all the way back. That's a nightmare with surge pricing and all that, but I feel like a lot of this was out of Riot Fest's control, so, you kind of have to make the best out of a bad situation. And I know that Riot Fest is getting absolutely crushed online because people don't, throughout Riot Fest's entire run, they've always been in Chicago, and whether it's at a different park or different venues, for the most part, you weren't that far away from getting to the next spot or an after show once they were at, Humboldt Park and then Douglas Park, but, I can't fault Riot Fest for doing what they're doing, because it seems like they tried everything they could to partner with the Park District again. And then, once you get into that and stuff, you get into politics, you get into, all that crazy stuff that I don't even want to waste time talking about. So I feel like this was like the best out of a bad situation. And from that announcement video that we got, last night, it seems like this is the plan going forward. I've seen a lot of people being like, oh, this is just like a 1 year kind of stopgap thing, but I don't like what's going to change from this year to next year with the Chicago, Park District. I don't see anything major changing. I would still like to see this, in Chicago, just because, we just have Lala in there. We have all these cool venues. We have this cool music scene here in Chicago. So that part about moving to the suburbs, I don't enjoy that much. Like, I'd love it to stay in Chicago proper, get all those amusement taxes and all that revenue and all that stuff back into, the neighborhoods and into the city. But, I'm sure Riot Fest tried to do as much as they could do to keep all of that going. So what do you think about the Riot Fest 2024 lineup? And what do you think about the Riot Fest land concept? I'd love to know if you're from the city, what do you think? Because Riot Fest is kind of getting destroyed online. And if you're traveling to Chicago, or if you were planning on traveling to the city for Riot Fest 2024, has this altered your plans? Has this changed them? Do you have to, cancel? Did you book a hotel that's closer to Douglas Park, but now all this has changed? Like, what's your kind of thought process going into that? I'd be really interested to hear what someone who's flying in and traveling, what they think about all this, where you're going to stay, more closer to the festival, more in the city, travel, rent a car, all the kind of logistical stuff besides, like, do I like the lineup or do I not like the lineup? Please like the video. It really helps me out. Subscribe if you haven't. Tell all your friends, and thanks for watching.